Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're really digging into a term that you just keep hearing everywhere in business travel. Bleisure. That blend mixing business trips with actual leisure time. It seems to be dominating all the corporate talk. And, well, for pretty obvious reasons, I suppose.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just the latest buzzword. Our sources are showing this isn't some small niche trend. We're talking about a huge global economic shift here.
Okay.
So we're going to dive into the numbers, but maybe more importantly, we need to ask why it's happening right now and how destinations specifically, we'll look at a key European spot, are actually setting themselves up to grab a piece of this market.
Right. Okay, let's unpack that. So blending work and vacation, is this really like a fundamental shift, or is it just something temporary, a phase? Give us the big picture of the scale.
Well, look at the forecast. The global bleisure market was already massive, right? Somewhere between, $430 billion and maybe $692 billion in 2024.
Wow.
But the real kicker is the speed of growth. It's expected to shoot up by something like 500% by 2033.
500%.
Yeah, and spending could hit $816 billion, maybe even next year in 2025.
Okay, 500% growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't see that kind of rate in established sectors like corporate travel. That tells me this isn't just people spending a bit extra. It feels more like a structural thing driven by something deeper.
Absolutely. The whole market is projected to hit like $1.7 trillion by 2032. Trillion, with a compound annual growth rate over 12%. When you see that kind of explosive growth in a huge sector, well, you know the game has changed. And the main reason, it seems pretty clear.
Yeah.
It's the big shift towards permanent remote and hybrid work. That's the engine.
Right. And this is where it gets really relevant for you listening. Because if you expect flexibility working from home, you're going to want it when you travel too, right?
Yeah.
What's the data showing on that employee demand side?
Oh, it's overwhelming. We saw one study, I think Deloitte, showing the number of travelers planning to actually work while on vacation jumped from roughly a third to nearly half in just 1 year. Yeah. So the whole idea of a business trip without adding some personal time, that's actually starting to look like the exception now, not the rule.
Hold on. If you look at that U.S. survey data we checked out, it said 84% of travelers wanted to add vacation time to their next business trip. That doesn't sound like a wish. That sounds more like an expectation.
Exactly. And it's not just what they want. 66% of corporate travelers, so think about that, 2 out of every 3 trips, they actually did extend their business trip for leisure back in 2023.
Wow.
It's just becoming standard practice. And Europe seems to be leading the charge in responding to this, holding around about 32% of the global bleisure market right now.
Okay, that makes sense. Europe's got all those desirable historic places pretty close together. But let me just push back a little here. Are we really sure this is all about employee well-being? Or is it maybe just, savvy travelers thinking, hey, free flight, cheap holiday?
That's a really important question. And yeah, cost savings are definitely part of it. That business flight's already paid for. That's a big incentive. But the key driver seems to be generational. Millennials are leading this. They'll account for almost half the market share next year. But Gen Z, they're super motivated too. Like 79% of Gen Z business travelers specifically want work travel because they want to explore new places. So for them, travel isn't just, a fun thing to do on vacation. It's kind of woven into their idea of a career.
So what used to be maybe a hassle, a requirement, corporate travel, is now actually seen as a real job perk.
Completely. You've got 75% of HR decision makers saying that just mentioning business travel opportunities in a job ad makes the role way more attractive.
Interesting.
And employees back up the wellness side of it too. 64% said bleisure travel genuinely improved their work-life balance, and nearly half, 47%, specifically mentioned exploring new places. So yeah, it's a retention tool, but it's also kind of a mental health benefit too.
Okay, so if people are actively choosing to stay longer, what convinces them? What does a destination or, say, a hotel really need to offer to get that bleisure spending?
Right. Well, first, the basics of why they'd even consider staying. The number one factor for about 2/3 of people is just, is it an exciting destination?
Makes sense.
If the place itself isn't appealing, they're not extending. Simple as that. Second is cost savings. About 59% mentioned that. That flight being covered is huge. And then third, about half mentioned proximity to the weekend. They want to make the most of that leisure time without using up too many official vacation days.
Okay, so the destination hooks them, the timing makes it practical. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. If you're staying on, You're not just a tourist anymore,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of both.
Mm-hmm.
What does that blended traveler absolutely need from their accommodation?
Yeah, they need that mix of function and comfort, the absolute must-haves. Really good, stable Wi-Fi. You can't have it dropping during a client call.
Definitely not.
Quiet spaces to work are important too, and crucially, a proper ergonomic workspace in the room, not just balancing a laptop on the bed. Hotels are catching on, designing new room types that feel a bit more like a small apartment, set up for longer stays.
Ah, that explains why lodging takes the biggest slice of the market, over 41%. It's not just about providing a bed anymore. It's about creating that smooth blend of office and, well, temporary home. Needs to be safe, comfortable for maybe several extra days.
Exactly. And then beyond the hotel room, the actual place needs to offer real draws. People are looking for local culture, great restaurants, maybe beaches, interesting historical sites, big events like festivals or concerts. The leisure part needs to feel like a genuine escape, worth staying for.
Okay, this sounds amazing for the employee. But if I'm putting my head of HR hat on, or maybe general counsel, my anxiety just went up a notch. This whole trend must be creating some serious policy headaches for companies.
Oh, absolutely. Huge policy challenges. I mean, companies do benefit. We saw that 82% of these travelers just stay in the same hotel for the whole trip, which can mean better corporate rates for the entire stay.
Okay, that's a plus.
But the lines get really blurry. Administratively, legally, it's tricky.
Let's clarify something important here. Duty of care. For anyone listening who isn't familiar, what does that actually mean for a company when an employee is technically off the clock on their own personal extension?
Right. Duty of care is basically the company's legal responsibility to take reasonable steps to keep their employees safe and healthy while they're traveling for work. The big challenge with Bleisure is figuring out exactly when that responsibility stops.
Uh-huh.
Like, is the company still responsible if an employee decides to go explore some remote hidden beach during those extra personal days? Where's the line?
That really is the core question policies need to nail down, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If the company paid for the flight, booked the hotel for the business part, does their duty to, say, monitor risks or provide support just switch off the minute the work meetings end?
It has to be spelled out super clearly. Policies need exact guidelines on expenses, what's covered, what the employee pays for, and they need to be clear about safety expectations, even if the employee chooses different accommodation for the leisure part. Is it safe? Clarity is absolutely key because the moment that official work duty ends, the risk situation changes completely, and the company needs to know exactly where it stands legally.
So given these really specific needs, needing solid professional functionality and that deep cultural relaxing experience, we wanted to look closely at a place that seems to have deliberately positioned itself to deliver both. Our sources kept pointing to Mallorca as a real European leader here.
Yeah, Mallorca is a fascinating case study because it really seems to manage that split personality well. It's not just a pretty island. It feels like it's been quite intentionally engineered as a leisure hub.
Okay, let's break down that engineering bit. First, the functional side, the stuff you need for work. What's the infrastructure like? What makes it reliable for someone trying to get business done?
Well, first off, Mallorca's got world-class connectivity. We're talking fiber optic infrastructure, reliable internet across the island, which is crucial. Plus, flight access is excellent. It's a major European hub, easy to get to. And then specifically in Palma, the main city, you're seeing this growth of really sleek, modern business hubs and co-working spaces, places where professionals can just drop in, handle their morning calls or emails, and then get on with their day. It's set up for efficient work.
Okay, so they tick the boxes for Wi-Fi and workspaces. But the real magnet, the thing that makes someone actually book those extra 3 or 4 days, that's the restorative side, right?
Yeah.
The fulfillment. How does Mallorca use its culture, its landscape, to deliver that?
It seems to be all about the atmosphere and the ease of immersion. Mallorca offers this really distinct kind of vibrant culture, that Mediterranean rhythm, a sort of cosmopolitan energy.
Right.
The island seems designed so that blending work and life feels effortless. It's not this abrupt switch. You can genuinely go from a structured business meeting straight into an evening by the sea or maybe enjoying some local wine under the stars.
That effortless feeling sounds critical.
Yeah.
It's not like you jarringly switch from business mode to vacation mode. It just flows. What are some of the actual activities people do there for that restorative experience?
The offerings seem quite holistic, actually. It's not just basic sightseeing. People can get into experiences that feel genuinely restorative. Things like sailing or really immersing in the culture, exploring the old town's patios and plazas, especially seeing that golden light at dusk.
Oh, nice.
Or maybe going wine tasting up in the Tramontana Mountains. There's also a big emphasis on wellness, maybe a morning yoga class overlooking the sea or spa treatments. It feels intentional.
It sounds less like they're just listing tourist spots and more like they're marketing an opportunity for genuine well-being, for recharging.
Exactly. The aim seems to be making the whole trip both productive and truly restorative. And you see the local industry responding too, with specialized services. Our sources mention things like Luxure services focusing on curating these really tailored experiences. They're thinking about boardroom needs like private transfers, nice meeting spaces, but also guiding guests towards that perfect personal downtime. It's like
Yeah.
personalized management for the whole Bleisure lifestyle.
So Mallorca really shows how to nail that European market share.
Yeah.
You need the serious business infrastructure, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you also need that rich cultural texture that makes people want to stay and recharge. Hashtag tag tag outro.
Yeah, so if we bring it all together, I think it's pretty clear.
Hmm.
Bleisure isn't just a fad, it really is the future of business travel. It's being driven by this post-COVID workforce that's completely reassess what flexibility means, and they want meaningful experiences.
Right.
So if companies want to attract and keep the best people, they basically have to create policies that support this blend of work and life.
And for any destination, any hotel group listening, thinking about how to capture a piece of this massive trillion-dollar market, well, the blueprint seems pretty clear now, doesn't it? You need that solid professional backbone, the great Wi-Fi, the workspaces, the connectivity. But you absolutely have to combine it with a deep cultural appeal, a genuinely restorative environment. The place itself has to feel worth extending the trip for.
And that brings us right back to the human side of things and maybe that policy challenge again. Our sources highlighted that 76%, three-quarters of U.S. travelers surveyed said they experienced negative stuff like serious fatigue, even burnout, if they didn't take time off regularly.
That's a huge number feeling burned out.
It really is. So it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is Bleisure travel just this nice little perk, something extra companies offer to look good? Or given the stress levels, the burnout rates we see in today's hybrid work world, is Bleisure actually becoming something more fundamental, maybe even an essential tool for employee wellness, for actually preventing those mental health crises in the modern workplace? Something to think about next time you're looking at your vacation days and your next work trip.